Wreck yourself with that thing.
Metal Gear.
Welcome to GameSpot Live. I'm Kasavin here to tell you about Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance for the PC. Even if you didn't know it already, you could pretty much tell right off the bat that this game wasn't originally designed for the PC. It's clearly a console port, and in fact, Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance gets the dubious distinction of being a port of a port. Originally, Metal Gear Solid 2 was released for the PlayStation 2 in late 2001. It was later ported over to the Xbox, and now this PC version of the game is just lifted directly from the Xbox and kind of slapped onto the PC. There are references to the Xbox control scheme both in the game and in the manual. You might have some trouble configuring the game, and there's some compatibility issues with certain graphics cards. Stuff like that. This game, it virtually requires a gamepad. The default keyboard and mouse controls are pretty much worthless. So basically the developer and the publisher is doing its damnedest to make it difficult for you to play this game. So if this were just about any other console to PC port, you could pretty easily write it off and say, don't even bother, it's just not worth the hassle of trying to get this game to run on your PC. But this is, in fact, one of the most talked about, rather one of the most controversial video games ever released. When it came out on the PS2, it featured some of the most impressive production values ever seen in a video game, and those are brought over pretty much intact to the PC. And really, the most important thing about MGS2 Substance is that it's just totally one of a kind. It looks like it's this kind of stealth action game. It looks kind of similar to the recent Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, but it's really nothing like that game. It's not like any other game out there. It's very, very weird in a lot of ways. The story is just really bewildering and, might piss you off at some times. It just takes a lot of very strange turns and often doesn't make any sense. But the whole game is just produced so well and is so bizarre and unusual and interesting, really. So if you haven't played MGS2 already, you'd do well to check out this version. Back when MGS2 was released in 2001, it met with huge critical success, and yet players were really shocked when they realized that the game wasn't about Solid Snake, who's kind of the hero of the Metal Gear Solid series, but rather it focuses on a new character named Raiden, who generally people just don't like as much. He's kind of this androgynous, kind of wimpy guy, Luke Skywalker to Solid Snake's Han Solo. And the story of the game really takes a number of other surprising twists and made a lot of people pretty angry, but that's part of the appeal. It's you don't often play games that have stories that are just shocking, and the story in this game definitely is. The story is also really long-winded. Much of the game consists of you watching, or rather listening to, these one-to-one conversations between the main character and his other points of contact using what's called a codec, kind of a little embedded communication system that these characters have. These are just really long, drawn-out conversations. Some of the dialogue is actually kind of bad. Some of it doesn't make any sense. And yet you do well to bear with it because the overall experience of this game is really quite something. Other times the story unfolds through these really dramatic and extremely well done cinematic cutscenes that remain to date some of the best such cutscenes ever made. They're certainly far superior to most of what you'll find on the PC. They're fully 3D, using the game's 3D engine, and just very, very cool to watch. They've got, cinema-like production values, and there's very good voice acting in the game. Outstanding music from Harry Gregson Williams, who composed music for films such as The Rock. Really just Metal Gear Solid 2 has a really great look and sound to it. There's really a lot of great gameplay here too, although sometimes the story kind of gets in the way of your enjoyment of it, since just as you'll be kind of running around and sneaking through these heavily guarded environments and doing all kinds of cool stuff, it'll cut to another cutscene or another a codec conversation, and the gameplay will be kind of cut short abruptly. At any rate, both Snake and Raiden have a number of very cool moves. They can kind of run up and sneak up behind guards and take them hostage, use them as human shields, knock them out with kind of martial arts moves, drag them around out of sight of other guards, shove them into empty lockers. They can dangle off of ledges and climb back up, all kinds of stuff. They can also use a variety of real-world weapons and high-tech gadgets. Despite how much cool stuff Snake and Raiden can do, the controls of MGS2 Substance really kind of get in the way of your enjoyment sometimes, again because this was originally a console game and not designed with PC gamers in mind. You're going to need a controller that closely resembles the PS2 kind of stock pad, or even is the PS2 stock pad, since you could go out and buy adapters that let you plug it into your PC. In order to get the most enjoyment out of this game, just don't even bother trying to play with a mouse and keyboard. The game's got kind of a weird system going on where you're constantly switching between a third-person perspective and a first-person view for aiming. You can't actually move around from a first-person view, so you just kind of switch to it seamlessly in order to kind of aim your shot and tranquilize enemy guards by shooting them with darts in the head when they aren't looking, stuff like that. Actually, the enemy AI in MGS2 is really quite impressive. There are a lot of really cool details in the game. The environments are, highly destructible. You can shoot mirrors and shoot fire extinguishers and, shoot little magazines off the racks and plates off of shelves, all kinds of stuff. It really seems like a realistic environment that you're in. Likewise, guards will act in a pretty realistic fashion as they're looking for you if ever you should get caught. At the same time, MGS2 isn't exactly a realistic simulation. You could survive an inordinate amount of gunfire before dying. There are kind of these tongue-in-cheek throwbacks to old video games, such as how you'll see power-ups like the rations that you eat to restore your health, kind of as these big floating, spinning icons, as though this were a Quake game or something like that. The core game in MGS2 will take you about 15 hours to finish as long as you don't skip the cutscenes or anything like that. Substance has a number of other extras, such as over 300 of these so-called VR missions, which let you play the game without any kind of cinematic trappings to stop you. You can mess with all the different weapons in the game and go through the sneaking mode and experience the combat, all kinds of stuff. There are also some unlockable characters here, and just lots of these kind of short but sweet missions that ramp up in difficulty and let you just enjoy the game and mess around with the gameplay. These can really be quite fun, and there are a whole lot of them. There are also these so-called Snake Tales, which are these kind of supplemental stories to MGS2 starring Solid Snake. They're not particularly as well produced as the core MGS2. They're quite a bit harder, and you could tell they were kind of slapped together a little bit, but there's still additional content. Considering this is a single-player only game, there's actually a whole lot here to keep you busy. So the highest recommendation I can give to MGS2 is that it's pretty much going to be unlike anything you've ever played before. You're going to have to work with this game to some extent to enjoy it, starting with the initial installation process, which, have I mentioned, takes up at least 3.9 gigabytes of hard disk space. And really, starting from there, the entirety of MGS2 is just going to be something unlike what you've experienced before in games. And original games don't come out very often, so if you're willing to take a chance on something, then definitely check out MGS2 Substance.